Yeah, my whole life has been shenanigans.
Hey everybody, your buddy Basil here, and you are listening to the Joyspiracy Theory. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to try to make this intro quick here. I'm trying to keep the energy up because I've just been driving for like 20 hours straight. Well, with a little break to watch the eclipse there. Anyways, that was cool. More about that later. Anyways, I'd like to let you guys know about the Patreon account if you want to support this podcast. If maybe you've been listening for maybe a little while, maybe this is your first episode, or maybe you've been listening for a while and you feel led to support the project to keep it going, because that's really the only reason why it keeps going. And for $5 a month, I mean, that's like a cup of coffee a month. You could really go a long way. Also, we got our Facebook page going and the Joyspiracy Theory prayer group, Facebook group. So search for that, TJT Prayer Facebook group, and join that. And there's a lot of discussion and prayer going on there. It's great. If everybody can rate and review on your iTunes or your podcast player, I'm telling you, I know you're out there and you're sitting there thinking, oh, I'll rate and review someday. I'm telling you, today is the day. Come on. Anyways, thank you for that, if you do that. Well, this week we got Jack. The boys are back in town. We got another man here on the podcast. It's been a while, and this was a great one. We talk about growing up in Mormonism, suicide, and sleep paralysis, as well as joy. A lot of joy, so don't worry. It's not all scary. But I'm very excited, so I'm going to keep this short. Going to let you guys get on into the conversation. So, yeah, here we go. Hold on to your butts. Whee! Yo, is this Jack?
Hey, man, what's up?
What's up, buddy? Hey, it worked.
This is actually my wife's phone. I think we were trying to sign out, and I've got so many devices going right now. It's like,
That's okay. You sound great right now.
Oh, all right. Well, that'll work.
Yeah, it's all good. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm pretty good, man. How about yourself?
Doing good. By the way, we're just going for it.
Why not?
Does that work for you? You sound tired. Before I ask you why you're tired, why don't you tell me what you're grateful for today?
What am I grateful for? I'm grateful to be on your radio show, really, and be able to have this platform to give my testimony and what God has done for me in my life, and not only for me but for everybody else to be able to do the same, and hopefully it can resonate and help others.
Amen, brother. Amen. There you go. We're going to do it. We're going to do it good.
Yes, sir.
So, let's get down to it. Why you sound so tired, little buddy?
Oh, man, I'm stressed, dude. I've been fighting Skype all day. I had the freaking desktop going, and I was having problems with it all day. So then I got the iPad, and
that's pretty much my entire life is troubleshooting Skype. So I'm glad you got the taste of the hard life of a podcaster.
There you go. It's stressful.
So that's it. It's just Skype stressing you out. You don't got any bugs in the bed or wild animals outside trying to get in?
Not that I know of. All
right, well that's good. That's good. Where are you from? Where are you located on this earth?
I'm from Texas. No, North Carolina.
That was good. Yeah. North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
This is weird. The only thing I know about North Carolina really is you can get a nice piece of property out there for a pretty fair price.
Hey, what more else is there to know?
There have definitely been moments in my life where I'm like, you know what? Struggle busing this month. I could just pack up, move everything to North Carolina, and live in a mansion.
Man.
This was a few years ago. Now I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't claim any infallibility on this, but a few years ago when I actually did look at real estate over there, just for fun, I was in no way in shape or form ready to purchase any sort of property, but you can dream. You can dream. And North Carolina was going to be the place because it was like a 5-room, 3,600 square foot house on like 10 acres, and I think it was going for like $200,000 or something.
Oh yeah, that's about the norm here, buddy.
Oh man, it sounds great. Sounds great.
Yeah,
if anybody out there,
a lot less though.
If anybody out there is feeling convicted, they can just buy me a mansion in North Carolina. I'm just gonna put it out there. That's not a request. I'm just opening that up for anybody out there.
There you go.
Well, that's good. What do you do out there, bud?
I work for a die-cast company, just working for the man.
Die-cast. That's so you make metal parts, metal things.
Yes, sir. Yeah, just a lot of
you got
automotive.
Those die-cast hands.
Yeah, all calloused up.
Have you ever considered plating yourself in metal?
Well, no, but we've kind of got the running joke that, if anybody gets too fed up with it, they'll just put you in the furnace. So I'm like, that's about as close as we've come.
When I was a kid, I had, what was it called? Oh, man. It's called like Metal Machines or something. And it was a little toy where you could put pewter beads in there and it melted it down and you could like put it in a mold and make a scorpion or a wizard or a dragon or something.
Huh.
Yeah, so we're both working men. We both
there you go.
We both create something out of nothing.
That's what it's all about.
Well, that's cool, man. So, let me play this game. Let me try to guess your age. You sound a little bit younger. I would put you in your early 30s, late 20s.
Oh, I'm 37.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I was too far off, but yeah, you're getting old, man. Any grandkids yet?
Oh gosh, no.
I'm just messing with you.
I got
So
that's cool.
Have you spent your whole life out there in North Carolina, or were you an immigrant?
No. I grew up. I was born and raised here, and then I did a little bit of traveling when I first got out of high school, and just kind of saw the country and did some stuff there. I lived out in Colorado and Boston for a little bit, for very brief times, and and then I had a small job where I did a lot of traveling from there as well, and just kind of
a small job. What's a small job?
Well, it was small, and I guess in the fact that it was a family business at the time with my brother-in-law, and just did some traveling, working with some doing odd end jobs for auto store. Yeah.
All right. I get it. You weren't building small things. It was
no.
Maybe the paycheck was small.
Yeah.
I've had a few small jobs in my life as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I feel like that's all I've ever had.
Yeah. You know what? That's how it is. It's how it is. You really gotta. It's I like to believe in the American dream, where you can do whatever you want, and you can make a living doing honest work. But the truth is, there's a lot of small jobs, and they don't seem to be getting any bigger.
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, sir.
All right. Well, so North Carolina, was that where the whole public restroom debacle happened?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, there you go.
At least we're known for that, too, in real estate. We got to make a stand, Basil. You guys roll over too easy out west.
Oh, yeah. Things are out of control over here. But that's funny. North Carolina. Cheap real estate and bathrooms where the sign is what it is.
It is what it means, buddy.
Yeah. So what's now? I want to get in. I want to get into the whole thing, but I'm curious about this North Carolina thing. Is it? I'm assuming it's pretty majority conservative. But I've done some traveling all around this country, and it seems that most places are kind of the same as far as like mid-sized cities, unless you get into like, some weird city that has, some historical. I guess every place has character, but it seems like there's kind of a I don't know, maybe whitewashing is the wrong word, but homogenization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like that, or you got some big fancy towns over there?
No, nothing stands out. It is just that. It's your cookie cutter kind of ordinary cities, and it's sad because it used to not be like this, but it seems like everywhere now you go is just everything's getting kind of run down more and more.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter where you move or where you live. It's just kind of inevitable, and it's all by design, as you well know.
I know. They're taking us down, man. They're taking us down.
Yeah.
But that's cool. There's what are the gun laws like over there, out of curiosity?
Oh, hey, buddy. It's
freedom.
They're very lenient.
Freedom reigns.
Lenient. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I'm just out of curiosity. If I'm gonna buy some property out there, I gotta figure that out.
You're gonna need guns. They go hand in hand. North Carolina property, then guns.
They actually
and then your restroom situation, so you got all your bases covered.
It just comes with a gun. You buy a house, there's a gun safe already in there.
Oh yeah, you'll get like 3 or 4 just out from like housewarming parties and stuff. Here's a gun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so you were born and raised there. Tell me a little bit about what that was like. What was it like growing up, and what were the parents like, brother and sisters?
Yeah. I got one older sister, and grew up with her. And my dad, I got another sister that he had in his second marriage. But growing up was good. It was normal. Dad worked a lot, and mom was home with us when we were younger and in our more formative years, and just growing up, doing our thing, just the happy little white picket fence kind of life.
Playing in the woods? Were you outskirts or in the suburbs?
Suburbs, everything suburbs out here.
Yeah.
So it's, we had a little bit of property, not a whole lot, but enough to get out in the woods and getting a little bit of wrist-cuffs with, I guess. But, it was nice growing up. I definitely have no complaints there. And, we're just active church-going family, in the Mormon Church.
Oh, Mormon Church.
Yes,
there we go. We got some Mormons in town here. That's interesting. What was that like?
I thought it was normal.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. To preface, growing up in anything, really any church, it's just it's normal until it's not, until you grow up and figure out it's different. But the Mormons, they've taken a lot of heat over the past few years. Just and here's the thing, I really do have compassion for Mormons, because to a secular person, it's not that much different from really any other religion.
It is and isn't.
Right, I was going to say with some exceptions, as that was coming out of my mouth. But, there's been some documentaries coming out. There's a lot. They had some heat on them a couple of years ago. Just a lot of the, kind of the less typical theological points coming out, and people being pretty harsh as far as that's concerned. But tell me a little about what it was like growing up. Did you wear? I don't want to be necessarily disrespectful to anybody, but did you wear the secret underwear and things like that?
Oh, no. You can't just go and get those, and like when you're little, you just can't. They don't give those to kids. Those are more designated for when you're. Those are pretty much when you're older. You got to go.
Those are big boy underpants.
Yeah. You got to know your Mormon doctrine to get those, I reckon.
Oh.
but not so much that as it is just going to their temples, doing taking their covenants and things like that, and really working your way up in their priesthood. It's just almost like different levels in there, I guess,
Interesting.
for a lack of better terms. But,
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
that's something you notice with a lot of belief systems, Mormonism, and belief systems like Mormonism is, and I think this is what makes it, I think, appealing to a lot of people, and people stick with it for so long, even though they may be having doubts or questions, is when there's that like built-in hierarchy with a solid path to like leveling up. I mean, I play a lot of video games, so when you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, like you just spend your time leveling up your Mormonism level.
Well, yeah, but it's they're very close knit and they're very squeaky clean,
Yeah.
On the outside appearance and things. So from that standpoint, they would fit in well with any other like Christian, because
Sure.
they don't drink, they don't smoke, they're not known for that.
No caffeine, no Coca-Cola, no coffee.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's hardcore.
Nothing. Oh man, who are you telling? Like, I can't hang now. Yeah.
So, I mean, did you like it as a kid? Obviously, it's kind of all you knew, but you didn't have any, no big complaints, no funny business going on?
No, yeah, I liked it. It
Cool.
was good. Yeah, yeah, pretty much up until but it's like I went till I was just like, I don't know, maybe preteen, if that, and then like we kind of become more unactive, but everything I learned from my whole life being raised up into it just kind of, it stayed with me and always kind of resonated with me. So I always
Interesting.
kind of, carried their beliefs on me, even though I may have not always practiced them in my later years.
Sure. Well,
But
that's definitely how it is. I mean, you're raised with something no matter what it is, and it's hard to shake.
yeah, oh yeah, most definitely.
And that goes for a lot of things. I lived in a small town when I was younger. This is just an example of how far you will carry things. I lived in a small town when I was younger, and it had a tiny little airport, a little private airport that you could basically just like Cessnas and stuff would come in. And I asked my dad, I said, why don't we fly out of that airport on our next trip? And I was like, do they do big planes there? And he's like, oh yeah, they do Lear jets and they do 747s. And he was obviously just messing with me. But until I was like 25, I believed that they were landing Lear jets on this like 100-meter airstrip. And anyways, I just held on to that for a long time. So if I can believe in this fantasy airport for so long, things like spiritual beliefs stick for a while longer than that.
Yeah, they tend to do that, don't they?
So how old, I got a couple questions. So how old were you when you guys became inactive? Well, first that'll influence my next question.
Yeah, I was probably 12, 13 maybe.
Okay, so a little bit earlier. You didn't have like a lot of time to do a lot of sneaking around and getting into shenanigans while being in the church.
Not really. No. Not really. I was a good, squeaky clean kid.
Yep. There you go. Right up until about 12, 13. That's kind of how it lasts. Now, why become inactive? Why kind of stray away? Sounds like you guys had a pretty good deal.
Well, it was just, it wasn't so much me personally as it was just the whole family.
Right.
Then it was like there was problems in my parents' marriage, and things just kind of started turning south, and and it was slow and gradual, but that was when I was like 12, 13, something like that is when we slowly started becoming inactive, and it just got increasingly worse until my dad eventually, him and my mom split up,
right,
and went about their ways.
And that's a big no-no in the church, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, but
Did
yeah,
you?
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get too personal here. You can totally tell me to
Ah,
do a 180 if I need to, but um, was it kind of? Could you tell like maybe your mom wasn't into it and your dad was into it? Maybe was there like a
oh,
imbalance in sort of the devotion to the Mormon Church?
well, I think they believed in the church, okay, but I think as time kind of went on, um, uh, I, I think there were some compromises in beliefs. Just they're given into things that the church didn't really uphold. Like my dad started smoking and things like
Ooh,
that. Which sounds light,
rebel.
but then it's right. And then it just snowballs into other things. And I'm not saying like all of the differences in the marriage was all one or the other.
Right.
But they slowly started having rifts in marriage, and then inevitably that forced them just to kind of compromise their values that they held within the church,
That's
and that just
interesting.
kind of snowballed from there.
It.
And when you have those compromises, you're not going to go to that church,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because of ridicule and everybody's eyes, and especially if you've been inactive for a little bit, and then you come back, and then it's like, oh well, where have you been? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, and again, I don't have any firsthand knowledge or even secondhand knowledge. It's all just kind of what people on the internet have told me and what I've read about, and Facebook
Hmm.
nonsense, really. So maybe you can clear up if there's some things
Oh
that
yeah.
aren't necessarily, uh,
Hmm.
common. But
For sure.
I mean, when you get married and such, I mean, I've heard a lot of talk about having spirit children and being married in the afterlife and
Oh
making
yeah.
populating planets and things
Yeah.
like that.
Well, um, it's yeah, it's they tell you part of that on the surface, like okay, when the nice missionaries come to your door, that's one of their draws to you. If you're not real familiar with it, was okay. Well, our church, we believe that you can be sealed together and be in a family unit in the afterlife. So I'm like, don't you love your wife? Don't you love your children? Would you not like to continue that with them in heaven? And on the outside looking in, who would say no to that,
Of course.
right? And but then okay, and then it's just kind of brushed off from there. And it's like, all right, well, you don't really get into the details of it. Is never really even talked about that much. It's just kind of little things are kind of implied. I learned more about some of the far out stuff, later outside of the Mormon Church than what was taught in the Mormon Church. You just kind of get the nice glossed whitewash
Right.
answers, but
And
then
you
you got to think, well, how does these things happen? And
and you don't really
but
get those like kind of upper level secrets maybe until you make your way to a certain level of priesthood or something. Kind of now again, I'm not here to bash anybody. I mean, everybody's got thoughts about everything, but it sounds a little bit kind of like Scientology or something where there's like secret
mhm.
information that you don't really get to know until later.
Or masonry, maybe a
Well, of course,
chance.
yes, yes, we could
um,
do all sorts of
yeah.
parallels.
Well, I don't know if it's so much that as it is because the information is there, but you just got to know the questions to ask. And if you don't know the questions to ask, then you're not going to get those kind of answers.
Yeah,
Um, and that's pretty much it. I mean, they don't. I mean, these things aren't really talked about in depth, with the whole spirit children and things of that nature. But you are later taught that. Okay, I mean, some of the far out theologies, from what the outside person looking in would think are a lot of them are true. You're told that you will be a god, and basically what that is just um like with your family that you're still together with in their temples. Okay, well then you'll have your own planets, and you'll be just like Jesus is to us, because they look at Jesus as God, his son. So we
right.
would be just kind of like that. And I mean, the hubbub, the deal. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't want to get too much explaining if
No, no, no.
too many people already know these
I
things.
certainly am not asking for like an expose, but I am curious because I've never been in a Mormon church, nor has anybody who's close to me. I mean, like if you go in on don't they do Saturdays, right? Or are they Sunday?
No, they're Sundays.
They're Sunday, okay.
Yes,
so
sir.
you go in on a normal Sunday, like what's a Mormon sermon like, or what's a service?
Well, it's pretty quiet, very very low key. You sing some hymns that are they're better to sit through. They're all like very monotone, very low key.
Right.
It sounds bad, but something you'd hear at a funeral.
Yeah. No, I mean that's kind of like
organ and
kind of like the classic church hymn when you see in a movie or something. They'll just be singing along, rolling along.
Yeah, exactly. And they have like their bishopric, and then those are pretty much the leaders over your church, your local church, and they don't really get up and teach. It's not like a pastor and a sermon. They'll have members of each. They'll have a couple of members of the ward or the congregation. They'll come up and give a talk.
The ward?
And yeah, they're called wards.
Oh God, it's kind of creepy. It's like a prison ward.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Uh-oh.
Breaking it open, baby.
Yeah.
Okay. So just like readings and stuff like that.
Basically they'll just kind of readings, and like they're just given a topic and go with it. Like the bishop will tell them what he feels led that they should speak about, and they'll get up, and basically like almost give a short lesson on it.
Is it like a lot of Jesus talk, or do they get kind of funky?
Oh man, like, I didn't really hear. I mean, Jesus.
You weren't paying attention.
But you get more Book of Mormon stories than you do Bible stories. Like if anybody's going to cross-reference scripture, then it's going to be from the Book of Mormon, and not they'll because they do use the Bible too. Okay. And they'll give some quotes from the Bible, but 90% come from the Book of Mormon, because that's their leg up. That's what makes them different.
Yeah.
So that's their niche. So that's what I knew Book of Mormon, like the back of my hand as a kid, but I didn't know a whole lot about Jesus. I knew he died for our sins, but we weren't told to really talk about the cross. You don't talk about that because that was too painful for him. There's no crosses in a Mormon church,
right?
Anything like that, you won't see that. It's not talked about much. They'll say what he did in the Garden of Gethsemane was more than what happened at the cross, was more agonizing for him, and it's just, I don't know. It's very different. It's very different.
Now, I'm not trying to, like I said, I'm not trying to make the whole episode about Mormonism. I mean, heck, I'm down, but I'm sure you got some other stuff we can delve into. But do you remember any stories from the Book of Mormon? I gotta say, through all the research that I've done, I think that the Book of Mormon is probably like the least read literature that I've personally. Like I just haven't really looked at it that much. Got too many other weird stuff to look at. I mean, what's it like? Is it just totally different stories, different everything?
Well, yeah. I mean, it pretty much it will talk about somebody who it's basically written like a Bible. You have, it's transcripts written by individual prophets, as they call them, and coming from the Tower of Babel whenever all the languages were scattered.
Yeah.
Right. And then they had a branch from there recordings from a branch from the people from there that came to the Americas and basically are the Native Americans.
Oh,
and that's just a record from what happened from that point to, later.
Sure. I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
That's interesting. All right.
It's
so
it's something.
So your parents started having a little bit of trouble. They split up. You left the church. You're around 12, 13 here. what kind of did you end up getting in shenanigans in your teenage years or what?
Oh yeah, that was yeah. My whole life has been shenanigans. um, yeah, yeah. I did. Yeah. It was tough. Like when my dad left. Um, but I just kind of whenever my dad left, they were married like 20 some years. My mom had a tough time with it, so she started drinking, and it was not very good. It wasn't just kind of uh casual. It was brutal on me. My sister, she was a little bit older, so she was in school and she was more involved. So she kind of was
Your
able to.
mother's drinking, you mean?
Yeah, but my sister wasn't around. My mom would just get kind of hammered and just tell me how it just lied into me,
Yeah,
and
a lot of verbal abuse, things like that.
yeah, yeah. But I
That's
love my mom. I hate to even say these things, but I mean that was part of my childhood, and that was part of me growing up, and it is what it is. It was. I mean, it was for about a year or so, but.
sure. Yeah, and just to be clear for you and everybody else who comes on the show, I mean this is a safe place. We all have troubles in our lives. I could tell stories about my parents, and they listen to the show.
Yeah.
But this is life is a long journey, and people go up and down, and even though somebody might hurt us, doesn't mean we don't love them, but also doesn't mean that they get to keep it a secret either.
Yeah. 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 True that.
So that must have been tough, man. Your parents split up. Your mom's obviously having some trouble, and your sister's kind of seems like she was a little distant.
Yeah.
So you were living with your mom the whole time, or do you go back and
Yeah.
forth? Oop.
Yeah. No. I didn't think my dad really kind of. I think he left and he was interested. I think probably more in starting another life, and I
Oh,
just
so
that's how I felt.
he was kind of just doing a full bail maneuver.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I mean, he was still, we do our, every other weekend visitations kind of thing, but, and then it was at one point, he was like, told me, he's like, well, I don't think you really want to keep doing this anymore. So, and I know he was like involved with someone else shortly after he left. So
Sure.
I knew I just kind of felt like he just kind of wanted to start his new life, and didn't really kind of want much to do with me at that time. And then it's like, well, my home life with my mom was just, she would keep me up like all hours of the night, just kind of like yelling at me, telling me, it's just, I'm, just a scumbag for going to go talk to my dad and see my dad, and then fill me in on everything else she could think of. And it was, it is what it is when you grow up with, well, not even really grow up, but just dealing with an alcoholic parent at the time.
Yeah.
And it just, but it wasn't that very, very long. It was just for like a year or so.
That's
And then
interesting. So she cleaned up her act after a year, or what?
yeah, she did, man. She did. I'm proud of her for it. Yeah, she seeked help, and so yeah.
Well, you know what? I gotta say that's great news. We talking about parents is oftentimes a big part of the show, and a lot of people, and hey, I totally get it. We don't like to talk about some kind of darker times, especially when it's our parents, and especially when they clean up,
Yeah.
and that's good for them, and it's good for everybody. And so, hey, I give her credit for that. I wasn't trying to dig and make her sound like a bad lady.
No.
So yeah, well, that's great news. So seems like she did what she had to do. What she do some AA? I don't even know if I'm allowed to ask that, but
No, man, you can ask me anything. I'm an open book. It's all good. Yeah, she did. I think she did a short stint in a rehab, and then went to AA.
oh, so she really got after it.
Yeah, well,
Now,
I felt like she about had to.
Now, was this a voluntary rehab or a court-ordered rehab?
Nah, voluntary.
Hey, look, it's looking up every question I ask. It just gets better.
Yeah.
That's always it's about a 50-50 when it comes to going to rehab. Either you wised up or somebody wised up for you.
I hear you. Yeah. Yeah. But
So
no,
how did
she did.
how did that affect you? Did you did you start hitting the juice? Was that a little bit of an influence for you?
Yeah, of course I did. But and the influence, I don't know. I think I was just kind of there towards the end of things. It was just I just got numb to everything,
Yeah.
and it was and then I just kind of I don't know distance myself from just I don't know, just kind of shelled up. I was always kind of an odd kid anyway, and then it's just
Yeah, you're the Mormon
yeah.
kid.
yeah, and and then it's like my social life out in school and things weren't all that, but yeah, I mean, I started drinking at a young age and started smoking weed at a young age, and it was mainly just because like the one or two friends I had, that's what they did and that's what they were into, and I'll never forget like one of my friends was like telling me he liked me better when I was drinking because I would talk more, and he didn't really care much for me otherwise. So I'm like,
Yeah.
well, okay. But, I don't think it would have took him to say that for me to keep drinking. It was just, I don't know. It's just one of those things that's something I struggled with for a long time.
Yeah, and, that's you may not have meant to say something profound there, but I have heard so many times and even experienced a little bit myself, the not just the like pressure or whatever, the social pressure to drink or just wanting to fit in or whatever, but people just outright being like, "You're way cooler when you're hammered."
Yeah,
like keep doing that because then you can keep hanging out with us.
Right. Yeah.
So, excuse me. So did you end up ever getting in some serious trouble when you were in your teens?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's hear it.
Well, I don't think I wouldn't necessarily say serious. When you're drinking, and then it was like, well, when I started doing that, I dropped out of high school, and did some traveling, and with a buddy of mine, and we ended up, living in I don't know a car for a while and just staying wherever we could, but you're just partying, you're doing every drug that comes your way and drinking on top of it, and
Sure.
you do that live that life long enough, you're going to get popped for court dates constantly. And I just remember it seemed like, man, I was going to court like monthly, just like, oh my god. It just it gets bad when you recognize like the people in court, and you're just that's when you're just like, this is my life.
When the judge knows you by first name, when the bailiff gives you a high five when you walk in.
Exactly. Yeah.
So just a lot of drug and alcohol related stuff, some possession, maybe DUI or something, drunk in public, stuff like that.
Mainly just that when I was younger.
Let me just list some more crimes, and you tell me
I'll just
which ones apply.
Above, man. Yeah. Pretty much not really drunk in public, but like early on, it was just kind of trespassing, just stupid stuff. Yeah, possession, but nothing major, because, if I had it, I was going to do it all. I couldn't really.
There's nothing left
myself.
Over.
No.
Nothing to get caught with.
Pacing. Nope, you just go in face first. Yeah. But I didn't really get popped for drinking and driving until I got a little older, I guess. So I've racked those up.
So teen years, no hard time.
No.
All right, so far so good. We're doing it.
Flying under the radar.
Yeah, somehow I don't know what happened. I think teenagers are just really sneaky, man. You can get away with a lot as a teenager. Certainly much more than you can after you hit 20. Nobody gives you a break then.
Yeah. I don't know. I think my mom, she always kind of cut me a lot of slack, and I think she did because she felt guilty from what happened previous.
Right. Now
with growing up.
Now during this time, you mentioned that the beliefs of the Mormon Church is kind of sticking with you. Did you still kind of consider yourself spiritually active, or was it just something you grew up with and almost like in a past life?
Oh, I consider myself spiritual, but I wouldn't necessarily say spiritually active.
You
You
weren't
know,
you weren't talking about Mormon Jesus when you get high
nah,
with your friends?
no, but and it wasn't even Mormon Jesus. You know, I tried to just I always believed in him. You know, always,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't. I never really considered it any different than what your Christian church would be. So I never was. It wasn't like I never really was like, oh yeah, I'm Mormon,
Sure.
thinking just because of all the flack you'd get from it, and I was always thinking it's not that much different than
Yeah,
what everybody else is,
you
but
hear that you hear that a lot from Mormons specifically.
yeah,
They're
right,
like, yeah, no, we're normal. We're just like you. And then everybody else is like, I don't think so. It's a little different.
yeah. On the surface, they are on the surface, and
Right.
it's yeah,
You mean on the surface, it's similar at least.
right, yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
could pass the
Mm-hmm.
Christian test if you had to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as you don't ask too many questions. Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so you're just kind of hanging, chilling, doing your teen years, pretty much like any other teen in the country, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah.
All right. Well, continue. And here's the thing: if I start bypassing something that you think I would want to hear, why don't you just let me know? Because I've had
Yeah.
people after the interviews will be like, "Oh, this crazy thing happened, and you didn't even ask about it." I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Just tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will do.
All right. So keep going. With you're getting in trouble,
Yeah.
doing the thing. So you
doing the
dropped out of high school. What age did you drop out of high school?
Because I'm an idiot. I was a senior. I didn't have but just a few weeks to graduate, and I'm just like, exactly. And it
One
was
of
just,
those. Yeah.
I was a teen who knew everything, and I was like, well, I'm gonna fail English, but so I'll probably have to repeat. But looking back, I'm like, even if I was going to, I think the teacher was going to pass you. She's not going to fail you to make you
Yeah,
repeat your
she
senior
doesn't
year.
want you in there any more than you don't want to be in
No,
there.
exactly.
That's
But
how I passed Spanish.
yeah. So I just, but I was just trying to rebel against any kind of authority anyway. So
Sure.
that was what I did.
What'd your mom think about your your little vacation?
Oh man, she didn't care much for it because I would run away a lot. It's like that's how I quit school. I went to New Jersey with a friend who, through another one of his friends, dad worked for Budweiser and was supposed to get us a job there. And so it made sense at the time, right? Sounds good.
Yeah,
So
sounds like a fun time.
yeah. So we went up there and yeah, never met up with him. Came back
Never
broke and
never got the
went to Myrtle
job,
Beach.
just sort of partied for a little bit.
Yeah, partied. Then went down to Myrtle Beach and partied some more. It was just crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah. Nothing real, and then, I was with a buddy who was in a car, so it was the car he was in was in his dad's name, so of course he was taking out warrants on him,
Oh.
so that's how we ended up getting caught. But
Just not showing up for. Wait, so
no,
his dad had warrants?
yeah, on him. But my dad did the same because I mean I would run away multiple times, and we'd be given cars, like any parent would do,
Yeah.
but it would be in their name, so if we hightail it to a different state, we could just boom put
Yeah.
out something for like stolen vehicle or unlawful use.
Got it.
Yeah, I had several of those, and he did too. So then we'd get caught with that and arrested, and then that's how we'd get met back up with parents, and then it's like, what are you doing,
They
boy?
have to come pick you up in Myrtle
Yeah.
Beach or something.
Yeah.
That's, I gotta say, it sounds like you had a decent number of run-ins with the lawman, but it just never built up to anything. You're just in and out pretty much every time.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I wouldn't ever get nothing major. I never had to pull like no jail time
For
till
some
later.
reason, I was under the impression where like even if you just have enough of little things, they'll put you in
Hmm.
for like a year or something.
That probably now, you got to fill the prisons, but
Right.
it's now. Then it was just they would put you on unsupervised probation, and that was it. I got pretty good. I got off pretty good on a lot of them, so
Yeah.
I was very blessed then.
I was gonna say, sounds like you lucked out a little bit.
Yeah, for sure,
Well,
for
good.
sure.
So now I want to move in. I want to keep moving because I
Let's do
feel
it.
it. Let's just keep the motive. Let's just keep this momentum going. I'll
Yes,
let you
sir.
take it. Take me to the next step.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Oh,
The next step. Well, it's just pretty much a continuation of my teen years. I
yeah.
didn't change none. I was just stuck in a rut. It was like, well, my main vice was always drinking, but I would do pretty much any drug that come along my way. But and that's just kind of where I stayed, and then I got hooked on all kinds of stuff there for a while. It was just living a just a bad life.
Drop those names
you know.
because that's a wide variety of things. What were you getting hooked on?
Oh man, I did a lot of cocaine. I did a lot of cocaine,
That's
and
expensive, man.
man, who you telling? But I I was staying with my mom at the time, because like you can't live that kind of lifestyle and have any kind of decent place to lay your head, you
Right,
know.
right.
So I would, always have mom's house to fall back on. So I was that loser guy in his 20s staying at mom's. But I couldn't afford anything else because, I'd always have jobs here and there, but, all my money just went to partying.
Sure,
So,
sure. And you had
yeah.
your crew there. Did anybody get into like some like real crime, or was it pretty much just partying? Nobody had a coke addiction they had to feed with a bank heist or anything?
I mean, I knew there were always kids that I knew growing up, and friends of friends that were pulling hard time for just breaking in like storage units and got caught selling guns, and then it's like you got the ATF on top of
Oof.
normal crime, so you're pulling hard time, and it's you always hear people like that doing those kind of things. So I always knew those kind of people loosely, but as far as like my net core group, no, we really didn't because we there was just a few of us that was able to work and pretty much just failed habits. I would
Yeah.
feel mine, and
Just some good
yeah,
old wholesome hard-working cocaine boys.
there you go. Yeah, yeah. That's it. Unfortunately, yeah, that was a lot of my life, but yeah.
Well, that's interesting. When did that start turning around? You're still pretty young, so it must have been, somewhere in there things started turning around.
Um,
Or do we need to have a talk about your current cocaine addiction?
you know, not not too bad, but let me think. Well, there was a time before I really got hooked on coke. I was probably in my I'd say maybe early 20s, 24 maybe, and I was dating some chick, and let me see. I was pretty well strung out because I think we just left the bar, and I think I was on a bunch of pills at the time anyway. And we, of course, just have a nice little falling out. So I think that time I just decided I was just going to kill myself. So that's pretty much what I tried to do. I went and got a cord to an electric shaver
Oh
and tied
wow.
it around in my closet and wrapped it around there and slapped it around my neck, and yeah, did that. And I'll just man that sticks with me very vividly, and everything that was going through my mind sticks with me. I'll just never forget it. And just everything I saw and felt while I was just kind of hanging there in my closet.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
I
Where you were just hanging free. Yeah, like you made it that
yeah.
far where you actually
Mm-hmm.
were hanging.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
Wow.
I was
Wow.
just hanging, and like everything was just going black, and you start seeing like colors, and because I had been there for a good bit, and I had a voice very clearly, just like your voice is coming to me now, come in my head, and it was like, if you die right now, you will not go to heaven. And it was
Whoa.
like when that kind of come in, it was just like, what am I doing? So I kind of stood up and got my legs about me and just undid my neck and just rolled over to my bed and passed out from there. And I remember my mom, she come in that next day to wake me up, and I rolled over and I was just in tears when she woke me up, because I thought that she knew what had happened, because my throat hurt so bad. I just knew it was bruised, and I'm like, all you gotta do is look in the closet, and there's still the noose, the cord wrapped around, where I was.
Oh.
So I just knew she knew, but I don't think she did. She probably just thought, I've been on this bad run, and like, you know, and just thought I was probably coming down, and just depressed, and not really knowing
How
that
far it
it went
went.
to, right. Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
my gosh. Just your mom standing in your room with
Wait,
a noose hanging in the closet.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're going to
And
do
so
this in your own mama's house, man?
I know, dude. I wasn't thinking right, and I think about that later. But see, that's where I was living,
Right,
and
right.
it was just, you when you do something like that, you're not ever thinking about anyone else.
Yeah.
That's first
And
and foremost.
obviously, I get the drugs had a huge part of it, but I mean, you got to be in some
Mhm.
real despair
Yeah.
I mean, to get to the point where you're dangling.
Yeah. I was, man. I was in a bad place for a long time, and I just always just had this. I don't know. I was just in a really bad place. I surrounded myself around like evil music, evil influences. Like the only thing I watched was like horror movies, and it was just like sick, twisted stuff. But it was almost like a joke to me. But it will numb you to the reality of it,
Right.
and you get on alcohol and on anything else, and it totally throws out any kind of, you know it just makes things a lot worse. So, yeah, that was that. So
So,
like I said, mom woke me up and I was bawling like a baby because I thought she knew and she didn't. And I didn't have a bruise around my neck, but I just, like I said, it hurt to swallow anything. Like,
oh
I
my
didn't eat for
gosh.
days because of it.
Yeah, that's got
I
to
was
be
like,
part of the crazy part. Just going the next few days, just feeling that still around your neck like that.
yeah. So, my sister, she lived out in Tennessee, and we had spoke previously about maybe coming out there and me doing some work for my brother-in-law. So I was on a plane out there just to kind of get away. After all that happened, I couldn't even hardly look at myself in the mirror. I didn't want to be around my friends. I was like, I had enough, because then after the fact is when you really start to think like, okay, well, the person that would have found me would have been my mother. You know,
Yeah,
so,
wow.
yeah,
Now, how did
and
that resolve? Did she ever find out that you were doing that, or she just thought,
I,
"Oh, he's crying again"?
yeah, probably like drunk. No, no, I don't think she ever really knew. I don't know if I've ever told her.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I may have later when I was drinking.
Hey, by the way, Mom,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let me tell you this story.
A real belligerent. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
wow.
Alcohol brings out the best in people.
Oh, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, wow,
Yeah,
that's pretty intense, man. But it sounds like right after that, you decided that there needed to be a real change.
yeah, yeah. And my sister, she was involved with the church, so that's where I was like, okay, well, I mean, I just need to get back in the church and clean myself up, and start over. And it was, theoretically, yeah, it would have been good, and it
S-
was good. It was good.
So
So
that was the Mormon Church?
yeah, yes, sir, yes,
Okay.
sir. Yep, she was Mormon at that time, and so I went out there and stayed with her, and you know, it was nice, but I ended up getting my own place because I stayed with my sister for a few weeks, so there wasn't nothing going on there, So I was able to kind of clean up and sober up for a
Yeah.
few weeks, about a month, and then till I got my own place, and then hey, right back on doing my same old tricks.
Did you share that with your sister? Your suicide
Nah,
attempt?
nah,
No, just
no,
kind of kept it a secret. Have you told
pretty
anybody?
much. Yeah, and it
Okay.
was I have, and it was like later, and it was
Right.
people that I thought were my friends, and they just didn't care. They're just like, yeah, whatever,
Oh wow.
which sucked. But I mean, I think I don't know. I had another friend who died the same way, and uh, and it was like at the time it was my best friend's brother, and so there, it was just a subject that was like, oh, I don't know if they even thought I was on the up and up, you know, about it, or if I was
Like
just
if you're
trying to do it
telling the
for attention.
truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
I don't.
Yeah,
They
it
just
sounds
seemed
like
to
you're a
really
hang.
not care.
Well, right, and when you're in the scene, when you're kind of deep into the party scene, doing a lot of drugs, doing a
Yeah,
lot of alcohol, when it becomes a habit or a lifestyle, I mean,
yeah,
it's you just kind of lose that empathy, or just kind of lose interest in things like that going on with people around you.
yeah. But I mean, what do you even say to that, too? I mean, exactly. It's.
I guess it
I
also
don't know.
depends how you brought it up too. It's like,
Yeah,
man,
true,
this is a
true.
good cheeseburger. Did I mention I tried to hang myself?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But,
Well, okay. So but it sounds like you kind of went right back into the same rut when you went out
hmm
with your sister.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that did. That's been my mo for
What was it like
a lot
going
of time.
back to the Mormon Church after all that time?
Well, it wasn't bad because it was like, you almost take a deep breath because, I was trying to get clean. I was trying to do what was right, trying to live up to their standards, and it was like, and I didn't have no familiar faces. So when I'd walk through the doors, it would be like no judgment as far as like, oh, where have you been the past, 15 years?
Right,
But,
right.
and I don't think, but you get that at any church, I think. Well, and I don't even know if people really think like that, but that's just the kind of perception that sometimes you tell yourself to be able to not go back,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. So, but yeah. I mean, it was fine. I thought it was what I needed at the time, and
Just some
so
structure or something like that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And as soon as I got my own place, I didn't go back to church just because I wasn't. I didn't really. I had more things that were higher on the priority list, which was just partying.
Yeah. So you
Unfortunately.
made some friends out there and got back in the groove.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. That's what you do, and then you just keep doing that until you end up in about the same shape, just broke. And it was like, man, I'm gonna get kicked out of my apartment just from you know partying too much, and I'm like, I don't have a dime to my name. I wrote a bad check for my plane ticket home.
Yeah.
So
Now,
I'm like, damn.
getting back into the same patterns, did you end up starting getting in the same trouble, getting picked up here and there? Did you get to the point where were considering going back into the closet?
Oh, I mean, you don't. Mm, mm, Not to that extent. I mean, a lot of times you'll have those, thoughts in your mind, but just like with anything else,
Right.
when you get a bad idea, you just brush it out.
Yeah, yeah.
But never to that point where I was that one night.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So then what happens next?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So come back to North Carolina.
That was a very telling. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just kind of sad. It's just like I just pick up here where I left off
Right.
out there. I come back to my mom's house to chill and get a job, and then just pick back up with my old friends and pick right back up into my same old habits and same old addictions, and going from there, and then just racking up DUIs and everything else. And
How many DUIs did you get?
I was convicted of 3.
Yeah, well,
I got out of 1.
Depending on the timing of that'll get you some hard time. Well, at least it will now. Maybe it's different back then.
Yeah. Well, I'd stressed them out pretty good.
Yeah.
I got tagged for 2 back to back, but like in about a month or 2. So that didn't really look good. There wasn't much getting out of those, but
Nope.
yeah,
All right, but still no hard time. Just getting a lot of slaps on the wrist. It seems like.
Yeah, well, you
lost
lose
your license.
Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like this past year was like the first year I've had my license without having a breathalyzer. I'm paying for mistakes I've done at almost 40 that I've done when I was like 29.
Man, those things are expensive, dude.
Heck yeah. So, yeah, time served as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
Yeah.
You didn't get any accidents, hurt nobody.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I get in accidents. Let's see. But let me think. I hit one person.
Oh my gosh.
In a vehicle, yeah. But I would hit mailboxes,
So you were like real drunk driving.
Well, yeah.
Like messing things up.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I never had no kind of
Come on now, Jack.
No kind of like I wouldn't pace myself. It was like all or nothing,
Right. Now, who is this person that you hit? Are they okay?
Yeah, they're alive and kicking. They sued. They sued and they got their money, but fortunately, because I was in my mom's truck at the time, so they come after her too. It was nasty, and but fortunately, we didn't end up having to pay anything. It was just from her insurance company covered that. But nonetheless, it's scary because I'm just like, man, my mistakes could cost my mom everything.
Right. Well, yeah, that's when you kind of start learning that your consequences, don't just affect you.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I should have learned that a long time ago, but I just never did. I'm hard-headed.
Right.
I guess pretty. I mean, you got to be selfish to keep making these kind of mistakes.
Yeah.
They're having these kind of consequences. I mean, it's a tough thing to say about yourself, but I mean, you're selfish to do those kind of things.
Right.
Very much.
Now, again, stop me if I skip over anything, but so are you Mormon now, or have you switched over to good old Protestantism?
Yeah, I'm no longer Mormon. I kind of got into the conspiracy things earlier in life, and slowly started, when you realize your whole perceptive of the world is not as it seems, and then, well, you delve into that for so long, and then you kind of look at your own religion, and it's like, well, let's see what we have here, and it's like, with all I learned about the New World Order and Illuminati and all that crap,
yeah,
it was just like, you always had red flags about Masons, but it was like something I just didn't want to look into much because the whole Joseph Smith thing. So we'll just kind of, I won't worry about Masons. Let's look at, the Rothschilds instead.
So you were kind of learning about all the shady stuff going on, but whenever it came close to, what you grew up with, you kind of
dusted under the rug.
Just adjust course a little bit to avoid those those pesky little obstacles.
Yeah, we'll just blame the Jesuits.
You can get away with a lot by blaming the Jesuits.
Oh man,
that'll
I can almost
get you
make a living doing that.
That'll get you pretty far.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They might be more right than.
Hey, yeah, no, hey, you're talking to the right guy here. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now we got two things going here, and it sounds like they're kind of related. But you mentioned that you were getting into kind of the conspiracy stuff, getting enlightened to the things going on in the world pretty early. What age did you kind of start exploring that?
Probably shortly after 9/11.
Oh yeah.
I was working with my uncle, and after that happened, shortly after, and he had an old shortwave radio that come out of like an old battleship that he got from
Whoa.
my great uncle, and this thing is awesome. But like, and so we would listen to Alex Jones on the shortwave, and because I worked with him for a small time in my earlier 20s,
You
right
worked
before
with
the hanging
Alex
into the.
Jones?
No, my uncle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
All right.
worked with him, and we would listen to Alex, and
That's a
so that's
classic
kind of what
uncle
opened my.
move, by the way.
Oh man,
Subjecting
yeah,
your nephew to
yeah,
Alex Jones or George Norrie or any of those guys.
yeah,
It's a big
yeah,
uncle move.
yeah. But it was good because it was in his earlier before he got real blowed up,
Right, right.
before he had the big organization.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hey, that was a good that was a good impression.
Yeah.
All right, so you were kind of getting the full early Alex Jones treatment then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And what was that like? Kind of blew your mind a little bit, I bet.
Yeah, but it was funny though. But his early stuff was just it was so far out and kooky, but at the same time some of it was true and then some of it was just ridiculous. But and it made it tolerable to listen to, entertaining to listen to. It
Right.
wasn't so just, news, like almost like a newscast about like it is now.
Right, right.
It was more, yeah, yeah, but I did that, and then it was just kind of how it is when you first wake up to these things. You go off the deep end and watch every YouTube video known to man, read every book you can get your hands on certain subjects, and it was just like boom, boom, boom. But
Right. Now, did
yeah.
you have any of your friends, were any of your drug buddies kind of open to this kind of stuff? I mean, because you take a toke or two and you could talk about that stuff all night long.
Oh my gosh, that's all I would do. I think it got to the point where they hated hanging out with me, but they would because I'd buy beer or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that. Oh my gosh, yeah, and they'd all look at me like you're a psychopath. You're nut. You don't know what you're talking about. And I remember like Alex was talking about how our money's going to come out red and blah blah blah, and we're going to start having colored money. And I was telling all these guys this, and then like it just happened like a month or two later. It happened, and they're like, "Whoa, he really was right." And then it was just like, wonder if he's right about everything else. But you tell people these kind of things, and not everybody will accept them, regardless of what shape their mind is.
Right.
When you're talking about how someone's whole structure of way of being, way of life,
Oh yeah.
organization
It's the whole
is,
world
they don't
view.
want
The whole way the world is structured collapses.
exactly. Some people will just tune it out, and it's easier to write you off as crazy. But you know how it is. It's like when you first get hold of it, you just won't shut your mouth.
Yeah.
So that's all you do is just ramble on about it. So that's what I did, and so yeah. But no, nobody else really bought into a whole lot of it. It was mainly just me.
Yeah, I was going to ask because, in my experience, people in other parts of the country, namely any part but California, really, it seems like a lot more people are kind of savvy to that type of thing. I did some traveling, and I was
Mm-hmm.
I was in the South, and it seemed like everybody around me was kind of at least had listened to or made a semi-habit of listening to people like Alex Jones.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was not there on Canary Cry business, by the way. This was, they had no reason to talk about it around me.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, it does, but I mean they don't really take. I don't want to say too far, but I mean they'll listen to it, and I'm almost shocked to find somebody who doesn't. But like people will know of Alex now.
Oh yeah.
But and that's just about it. This might be somebody they know a little bit about. But now everything's so mainstream. Illuminati's mainstream, and it's not from like the news aspect, but it's just everywhere in your entertainment. They'll put it there and make it as a joke and everything else. So it'll come up in a casual conversation, but something you laugh off as that's just a crazy conspiracy.
Yeah.
So it's just what it is.
Yeah.
And that,
No, sorry to interrupt.
no, I'm just rambling. I don't even know where I'm going,
No,
buddy.
no, that's good. I mean, this is all part of it. That's I'm sure a lot of people out there can really relate to that experience, especially people who are, in that part of the country.
Mm.
Because I mean, at least in my eyes, and again, if I get into to some stereotypes, I apologize. But it kind of seems like, well, I'll just go with my own experience. Like people in the South, when I met them, Louisiana area, Florida. Where else was I? I don't think I came to. Oh, Tennessee, even.
Mm.
It seemed like a lot of people were into it, but they weren't necessarily the metropolitan people. They were kind of the people living on the outskirts, on a
Mm.
plot of land or in the swamp or something.
Mm.
And I don't know. I think it's fascinating, and maybe you can speak to this if you have any experience or know anybody. Something about living outside of a metropolitan area, it seems a lot easier to sort of accept some of those things. Maybe because there's not as many people to tell you're crazy, but also you don't
Mm.
rely so much on a lot of the structures that are affected by that. Kind of the government structures. It's real easy to conspire or to, theorize about the banker who's coming to try to foreclose on your land. Well, he's, obviously part of
Yeah.
the New World Order.
Well, I think a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that you're not as jaded when you're outside in the country, because, then you're probably gardening, then you're probably trying to self-sustain a little bit more, probably more in the South and things like that, just from what I know.
Yeah.
And, you're going to have more people doing that and more people kind of living on the outskirts and not being caught up in everything else in the machine, to say, for lack of better terms, I guess. And so it makes it easier and more plausible for you to see that, hey, maybe, you know things aren't on the up and up as far as who I vote for, because nothing seems to change.
Right.
And regardless,
Yeah.
we're still at war, regardless if you've got a Republican, Democrat,
Yeah.
Trump or Hillary. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I
It's,
mean,
things are going to be the same.
yeah, the system is pretty predictable. it's
Yeah.
it's not a hard system to
Yeah.
predict. Now,
Yeah.
what was one of the most maybe world rocking conspiracy theories that you really latched onto?
Oh, I always believed in aliens and things like that. So, you
Interesting.
know, oh yeah, I grew up watching like old unsolved mysteries, and they would have people
Oh,
talk about alien abductions. So
I
I was like, from
loved Unsolved Mysteries.
oh yes, yes.
That
So I'm
was the
like,
sweetest show.
yep, yep. So I always believed, and I trying to tie them in to everything, and then you get into all that crap. But it wasn't until I heard um, a lecture from Rob Skiba
Huh?
when he was talking about our Archon invasion, and that just completely set me kind of on a semi course back to God. But in the early stages of my life, as far
Sure.
as getting back on track. But yeah, that was a big part of it, because okay, there was a big answer with the whole Genesis 6 thing.
Yeah,
Um,
and that kind of brings me to my next question. How did
mhm.
these two things kind of collide? How did the fringy conspiracy stuff kind of lead you to Jesus or Christianity?
Um,
Was it
well,
Rob Skiba? Do I need to call him and thank him for for?
well, I tell you what, he helped me from going into a really bad path, because when you get really inundated with these things, and you're trying to take, because I wanted to take every angle I could learning about these kind of things. So I would take secular. Well, that's pretty much a lot of it, and then you get into New Age, and then listening to like David Icke, and then you know later find out that after I bought his books and things like that, well, he gets his information from channeling, and that you don't
Right.
really quite get into all that. But and that doesn't mean you throw out everything he says, but it's just like, well, just every lie is half truth. So trying to decipher all that, and then you really start to question things, and it yeah, Rob pretty much put it in perspective. That was my first experience as far as being able to tie religion to answer these kind of questions, because you never got it, and you never got the full gamut of, okay, well, Satan is at the head of this machine. You just got bad people in power, due to money, due to bloodlines. Not why the bloodlines are important, but just due to these bloodlines, And there were always questions that were unanswered, but you just get what you can from it. And
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's interesting. And, I get emails all the time of people who, usually come from some sort of faith background. And really, I mean, it's this fringy stuff and the connections, between kind of the fringy stuff and biblical prophecy that really, it draws them close, and they find either a new relationship with Jesus or rekindle an old one or something. But it's really interesting how they're so connected.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And yeah, it's a big thing. But it connected me back to God. But I was in that whole time as I was doing all my research, I was still drinking, so I really wasn't going to church. I really wasn't seeking it. It just kind of
You made the connections.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then I started to kind of, when I heard other Christians talk about these sorts of topics, and I was getting answers and they were using the Bible to back it. Then I was like, that's what made me in turn look at Mormonism and what I was taught there, and how it stacks up against the Bible and even these other theories, because it's if you think you're a god, and I don't know, I could go on about that, but I'll reel it in for a minute. But
hey, feel free, man.
Yeah,
we're flying free here.
Yeah, well, I just when you're told in Mormons that you can be another god, and that you have your own planet and this and that, well, it makes the whole alien thing very plausible.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of a weird. It's kind of a weird thing to reconcile, though.
Yeah, like, okay, well, could this be what some of other creatures are, and but still being able to tie it into a religion,
right?
And that's dangerous. That's dangerous, and and them coming to aid us or whatever. I could see that and how it could go hand in hand very easily, because Mormons follow the word of their prophet like it is gospel, like it is coming from God himself. They do not buck that one bit.
Yeah.
So all he's got to do is put his stamp of approval on it, and all your Mormons will do it. Yeah. And I can pretty much, I look at it as, I would say even Catholics would probably buck the system more if the Pope would say something like that than Mormons would if the prophet said.
So what's the kind of the implication that aliens are like the spirit children of some guy who became a god and now they're coming to help us or something?
No, that's not talked about, but I could see just, how it could tie together.
Right, okay.
The aliens definitely aren't talked about. No, that's non-existent, blah, 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 blah. But, if something was to ever come about, then, But, I will say this. I mean, I've had dealings with sleep paralysis and things like that, and I've had to have, people from the Mormon Church come and cleanse the home, cast them out, and, just the people in the priesthood that I didn't have because I was ordained, but like I wasn't living right, so I couldn't do that, through their eyes.
You didn't have the authority to cast it out, whatever it was.
Nope.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. So yeah, okay. I've over the years I've talked quite a bit about my personal sleep paralysis experiences, and definitely had some run-ins with like some very individual beings, like actual, and they were all different, and some of them would come and go, and it was very strange. Thank God I nipped that in the bud. But what was that like for you?
Oh, it was horrible. It was like I literally dreaded and feared going to sleep every night. It was like it's like you just lay in bed and it's like you just cannot move. I physically did not see anything, but I could feel them, just like if, you was to touch me on the shoulder, I feel that, like
Yeah.
anything. I could definitely feel, like, on one occasion I'll never forget, like little hands from, it would feel like a 5-year-old, but I felt a ton of them all up on my back,
Oh
just
my.
almost lifting me up.
Oh gosh.
And
Yeah, the
I
lifting
just,
up, man.
yeah.
They're always trying to move you around when they
Oh,
get at you.
turds. I know. It's awful. They just wanting to, yeah.
I had one roll me over one time in the middle of the
Mm,
night. I could feel it. I
mm-hmm.
was sleep paralysis, and it fully rolled me over from back to front. It was very strange.
Yeah, yeah.
Whew.
But, I told my mom about it, and she was like, all right, first thing she did was call a dude from church, and he come, and he fasted, and, cast them out. And, we hadn't had no problems since there.
Yeah.
She hasn't, like that, to that extent. But, and so that would always make me think too, well, there must be something to it, because he was able to get rid of that for me. And, when you foul up real bad in the Mormon Church, it's a work saved kind of doctrine.
Right.
So when you screw up bad, you kind of got to go. It's almost like confession, but you got to go talk to the bishop and tell him what you did. And I was in there for one occasion, and I was talking to him, and he was like, "Well, don't you feel better after getting all this off your chest?" And I'm like, "Well, no." But and then I was telling him a little bit how I've had some doubts in the church, and then he pulled out something from the Doctrine and Covenants, and it read, which is Doctrine and Covenants, for those who don't know, it's like the Book of Mormon, but it's just additional writings from Joseph Smith.
Uh,
And they're like, okay, well, if you believe the Book of Mormon, you got to take it all. Then everything else he writes is true, because if he was a man of God and you really believe that, then you believe everything he wrote after the fact. And
oh,
one of those writings was that, if you join the church and you turn away from it, there will be no salvation for your soul. So that always made me very hesitant to leave, because I'm like, man, if I leave, I better know, because there will be no redemption for me if they are correct in
wow.
their doctrines.
Right.
So, it took a lot for me to be able to kind of wake up and kind of see what wasn't really adding up for me.
So what was that? What was that transition like, going from Mormonism to what we would call Christianity? I mean,
Yeah.
was that just kind of an exploration thing? You didn't have a good feeling about Mormonism and kind of just tried something out, or how did that go?
Well, man, I tell you what, I was confused. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do, and I was just kind of like, uh, I remember praying, and I was like, what do I do? And it kind of snapped, and it was like, we'll just follow Jesus, because that's what he was on the earth for, to set an
He's the
example.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, that makes sense. So then I was like, well, and then that kind of got me into more like your Hebrew roots kind of thing. I hate to even label it, but yeah, it's more Hebrew roots or messianic.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, and it was like, well, and that's pretty much where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
But I still consider myself a Christian, and I don't really go to a church, just because if I want to say Jesus instead of Yeshua, I don't want to be looked at like a heretic. I'm like, it kind of goes by both, I reckon. But all churches can get legalistic.
Oh
So
yeah, and
we just do our thing. But that's pretty much where it was for me. I was just confused. I didn't know where to turn, and I was like, well, if I just follow Christ and what he did on earth, how can I go wrong? How can you go wrong with that, in that logic?
there you go,
So,
man. That sounds pretty solid to me.
yeah, and that's pretty much, I was married at the time. My wife, she ended up joining the Mormon Church with me, just because we'd gotten married, and she just, I guess, maybe felt like that's just what she would do. And whenever we first got married, I was still drinking, and she was like, well, maybe this will sober his dumb butt up. So she was very patient with me, and yeah, so but it made sense to her, and it made sense to me. So that's pretty much what kind of broke us out of the Mormon Church. And it's like, since I've been out, I've been able to look at things a lot more objectively than when you're in it. and
Right.
you're able to see a lot more than when you're in the middle of it. And listening to a lot of like Bill Schnoebelen and him coming out of it, and that's really helped me a lot, because I have no one to really talk to and about this kind of thing that can relate, because there's not many ex-Mormons out here. There's not very many Mormons out here, much less ones that still want to follow Christ and don't want to be Mormon. So it's hard to find people to relate. So I ended up watching a lot of his stuff on TV, and it was a good coping mechanism, I guess you could say.
Right. Did you feel any? I mean, I'm sure you were technically exiled from the church or something, but did that affect your life at all, or were you pretty disconnected as far as that goes anyways?
Oh man, I guess, exiled. I guess I was exiled. We still have missionaries come to our house and say we're on their records, and I'm like, no.
Those Mormons and their
stop.
records, man.
Yeah, I tell you what, they're in a cave guarded by reptilians. But oh man, deep. Yeah. So I had to shed some of my extra wives and whittle them down to one. And,
I didn't even think about that.
That's usually the first thing on everybody's mind.
Yeah, why didn't I even think about that? I mean, that brings me back to your dad. Why didn't you just add a couple instead of getting rid of the one? Anyways, life choices.
There you go.
Do you know if your dad, is he still a practicing Mormon?
He kind of left the church, and recently, probably within the past few years, got back into the Mormon Church, and he's in it like full steam ahead.
Oh, wow.
But it's helped him to kind of, I see where it has helped him. And
gave him some structure, kind of returned back to something that was at least keeping him straight.
Yeah, because he smoked, like, he was a chain smoker, and so he was able just to quit cold turkey to go back to the church.
Wow, that's hardcore, man.
That is, that for like, oh man, I don't know, 15, 20 years, easy.
Yeah.
So, so, you see things like that, and you're like, well, I hate almost, I'm not really slamming them. I'm just, my experiences with the Mormon Church and what I think about it.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I always try to carry it with kid gloves, just because of my old man. And, I see what good it's done for him. And I just, I don't know. I just, I want to help him, but, hey, you just,
yeah, I hear you. And
plant seeds, and that's all you can do.
Yeah. And, it's really up to God, really, to do the work. And if if you ever feel called to minister to your dad or share with them, then you are obedient in that. But, a very freeing thing, I think, for everybody is to realize that not everybody is your responsibility. Not everybody's, salvation or whatever is your responsibility. Yeah. Ultimately, it's not. I mean, you may play a part in it, but it's not. If you don't do it, you don't just fail and you're in trouble with God. God's got a plan for everybody.
Yeah.
Did you ever talk to your dad about the conspiracy stuff or anything like that?
Oh man, yeah. Well, my dad, he is all over Facebook, and like Facebook is like with me, but I can't help but post like flat Earth memes. So I'm doing that constantly. And like, so he knows that my whole family knows how I feel about government and this and that, but they just all kind of roll their eyes, and he's really gone off the deep end now, kind of thing.
He's one of those.
Yeah. Pretty much. So they believe in the system, and it's,
hey man,
how can you take that from somebody?
Everybody's got to believe in something. Some people it's Mormon Jesus, other people it's the whatever political party they think is best. What was I going to ask you? Oh, I was going to ask, the whole journey from, that's involved in waking up. And it sounds like you started yours pretty early and must have been a pretty long journey. And what I've noticed talking to people on this show is the longer the journey, the harder it is to really measure, the effect that it's having on your psyche. Because a long, slow change you might be able to cope with a little bit more. And yeah, you have those sort of world-shattering moments, and you start getting a little obsessive. But where are you standing now? How you doing now? And it's it always happens in waves. I mean, one thing after another. You can be totally hyped up one week and down the next. But how are you coping with the devastation of the world?
Oh man, dude, I tell you, I could not cope with it if it wasn't coming back to Jesus, to God.
Right.
There's just how else can you? Because I mean, not to sound terrible, but I mean, it is not looking good for the future, for the immediate future. It's not looking good. Now you can take it so many different ways of how bad it can really be and how bad it currently is. But I'm like, it's, the only way that you can look at it and be at peace with it is when you're at peace with God. Yeah. That is it. And he will take you, you learn to walk in his spirit and hear his voice. And, you don't sweat that kind of stuff, and so it's, hey, if it wasn't for him, I would be, I was off the deep end for so long. I remember me and my wife would be at the movies and the trailers would be going by. I'd look over it. I would just be rambling on about what I saw and what it would mean. She looked over at me and she was like, I just want to watch a freaking movie. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. So you don't really realize you're just so inundated, and it can really weigh you down. But I mean, the only way you can be at peace with it is being at peace with God. And the few people I have woken up to it, and they'll come to me, and I see them because they'll get real inundated. And I can tell they'll be researching stuff, and they'll tell me, I've looked into this and that.
And they're all hyped up. And
yeah. And then they'll get depressed, and I just laugh. I just laugh so hard at them. It's like, I shouldn't, but I think now it's so funny to see people that you wake up and see them get depressed. Right. I don't know why, but I'm just like, I guess because I've been there.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it'll get better. It'll get better. And I'm like, oh, so you think that's bad? Well, look in the CERN, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, you could just send them. It's almost like you could distract them just by sending them off in different directions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, hey, coming up this September, it's September 23rd. You really want to scare some people. There's just so much going on in the whole prophecy end and conspiracy end, which I think a lot of it can go hand in hand. You can get overboard on so much.
Yeah.
You got to take a step back, man. And I think that's where I'm at now personally. I just feel like I've kind of taken a step back to a lot of conspiracy stuff because there's just been so much, and I've heard and listened to for so many years, and it's just like, okay, well,
yeah, it's
there ain't gonna be much to throw you a curve.
Yeah, well, exactly right. It's like, at this point for me, and I know for a lot of people, and it sounds like you as well, mm-hmm. It's just like somebody comes up to you with a new crazy conspiracy, and it's not even a lot of people describe it as kind of being jaded, and at one time maybe I would have described it that way, but it's not that I'm jaded. It's just like, it doesn't surprise me. It's like, yeah. of course that's happening.
Oh yeah, it just makes sense. Well, I'm like, well, yeah,
that makes total sense. I totally agree with you. Yeah, but you don't understand. It's just no, dude, I'm on your side. I get it.
Right. I just want to pat them on the head and then tell them something that'll really just crush their whole world. Go look into this.
Yeah, and it's always a good, at the right time and done the right way. It's always a good evangelism tool, or just an opportunity to share.
Of course. And I think for me, in evangelizing through it, has just been CERN, because there's a lot you can use there to relate back to Revelation and things like that. And, everybody's different. It's just whatever they buy into.
Yeah, everybody's kind of
that sounds bad, whatever they buy into.
Well, it's really like everybody, especially when it comes to conspiracy, it's like everybody's holding their own hand of conspiracy cards. Like everybody will have that handful of topics that they're just like obsessed with, and they can name all the facts, and they have made all the connections, and they're holding that card, and yeah, it's almost like they want to come and show you their hand and, show you the cards they have, and then you just take out the CERN card and hand it to them and just watch their heads explode.
Yeah. It's fun to do sometimes.
Well, good, man. It sounds like you got a good head on your shoulders. Sounds like you've been cleaning up your act for a while here and getting everything straightened out. I'm glad to hear that, buddy.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Now, if there's, here I go. I'm gonna give you the chance. If there's something we didn't talk about that you are just itching to talk about, hey, I'm totally down. If not, we can move towards landing the plane, however you want to take it.
Yeah. I think I pretty much hit the high spots
and the low spots.
Yeah. There you go. The high of the low spot.
All right. Well, if anything comes up, you just mention it before I hang up here.
Will do.
But with that being said, you know what I'm going to ask about next? I got to know. Over there in North Carolina, you got any crazy North Carolina dogs or cats or anything running around?
No, we do not.
Nothing, huh? Not even a junkyard dog chained out back or anything?
Oh man, no. We've had our runs. We got a pug. We had it.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome.
Few months. We had it for maybe about like 4 months, and then my wife was pregnant and just broke out from it, so he had to go.
Oh, she developed some allergies or something, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Pitched the dog, and so then a few years later, I've got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. So they're the most animal loving children. So of course they're begging me for another dog. So we get a bloodhound. So we had her for about the same amount of time, about 4 or 5 months until
he gave it another try.
Yeah. I mean, and my oldest developed an allergy to it and started early signs of asthma. So she had to go. So, and my wife is allergic to cats. So
dang, you're just biologically restricted.
I am. Maybe a goldfish, but
there you go.
Yeah, their shelf life isn't very long.
No, although I've had some freak goldfish that live for years. I won't say that their quality of life was necessarily the best, but once in a while you'll get one of those goldfish from the store and it just will not die.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
must be all that.
I'll put that out there for you. Yeah, it's all the mercury and the fluoride keeping them preserved.
Yep.
Well, that's awesome. So, how's your health doing? Yeah, I mean, you really gave yourself a beating when you were younger. It sounds like.
I did. And I'm paying for it, brother. I feel like I got arthritis in every joint, but
I know a great juice recipe for you, buddy. That'll clear that right up.
Oh, man. I got one of those little bullet things. I don't know.
Hey, that's
I used
good.
to make smoothies and stuff, but now just with the hours I work, it don't really work out.
I get it, man. It takes time and effort to do that kind of thing. And I'm blessed to be able to spend the extra minutes to do that. And I don't mean that I don't mean that in a sarcastic way. I mean, really, sometimes when you're hungry, man, just like 5 extra minutes is just like, nope, can't do it. Microwavable pizza right now.
But I remember when I first got it, I was looking up all these recipes that were supposed to help with like inflammation, and I'm like, I'm gonna get better. It was just the most horrible tasting concoction. I was like, how can anybody do this? I think that lasted about a week, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna make like ice cream smoothies. So I just kept doing that.
Ice cream smoothies.
Yeah, and just if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna at least make it taste good.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Hey, all right. Well, you gave it the good try. You gave it about as good of a try as you did with the dogs.
Yeah.
So we gotta give you credit for that.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, I gotta thank you, man. This has been a great conversation. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, buddy. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes, making sure we didn't skip over anything here. Yeah, okay, good. All right, well, perfect. I gotta say, it's been a great conversation. I think a lot of people are gonna love it, and thank you for opening up as well about some of those tougher things. That's that's not easy. A lot of people try to forget things like that when there's a extension cord hanging in the closet, and I think a lot more people have extension cords hanging in the closet and don't necessarily talk about it. So thanks for doing that.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate the platform.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Well, you take it easy. You keep on keeping on. And if you ever get a goldfish, you got to let me know.
All right, buddy. Will do.
All right, man. You take it easy.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Well, there you have it, folks. Hope you enjoyed that. That was just it's just nice to have some boys back on the podcast here. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And if you want to check out his podcast, it's called JC Radio. Now, it's JC, kind of like Jesus Christ, but it's spelled JAYSEE Radio, and it's on iTunes and Spreaker right now. He's up to about episode 7 or 8. I suggest everybody go check it out. He also has an episode where he tells his testimony there if you want to get more of Jack in your life. Again, that's JAYSEE Radio. JC Radio. Okay, there you go. Well, everybody, thank you so much. I just want to remind everybody again, hey, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, and you feel led in your heart. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and some of them I support and some of them I don't. But this is an awesome part in history where we are able to give to the things that we like and we enjoy in order to keep them going. And if we don't do that, there's a chance they don't keep going. But I'm very thankful to everybody who has given to the Patreon, and I just want to let everybody know, if you want to partake in the opportunity to support this podcast, we've got some goals on there. The higher we go, first of all, my goal is to be able to get it out every single week, but time is tough. So if you want to help reach that goal so we can get it out every single week on time, you can go to patreon.com/thejoyspiracy and just sign up for anything you can afford. We got some cool rewards on there and some other cool ones coming. All right, if you haven't liked us yet on Facebook, go to the Joyspiracy Theory on Facebook, like that page. We got a bunch of cool plans for that, and you'll also get updates as episodes come out and some questionnaires and things like that. Also, if you want to join the prayer group, originally you could go and email tjtprayer@gmail.com, and you can still do that. But Kelsey over there running that group is doing a wonderful job. She has started a Facebook group for the prayer ministry there, and you can get in touch with her. Just search the Joyspiracy Theory Facebook group or TJT Facebook group, and I'll be stopping in there too. So that'll be fun for everybody. Make sure to rate and review on your iTunes or your whatever you listen to this on. I know other people do. I don't listen to podcasts unless they're on iTunes. But Beast System, what up? But wherever you listen to this, please leave a rating and review. You guys, it really does help a whole heck of a lot. And I know it takes a couple minutes, and you kind of got to think of something to write, and you got to put in stars. And even if you don't want to do a review, just put in some stars. It really does help the podcast. On weeks where people, even if we get like 4 or 5 people leaving ratings or reviews, it puts us on lists. It sends us out as suggestions for people, and it's a great way to support the podcast and help it grow. So I appreciate that if everybody would do that. A rating is just 5 stars. If this podcast is a huge bummer in your life, you can rate it 1 star. But if it's like a huge, a big yum time for you, I have no idea what that means, but you can rate 5 stars, and then a review is just putting that into words. The Joyspiracy Theory is a huge yum time for me during my week. Oh man, I hope that doesn't mean anything weird. Okay. All right, looking through the notes here, I think that is about it Thank you to everybody for listening to the podcast. I truly love doing it, and I hope you love listening. All right. Well, make sure to tune in next time. But until you do, remember that when the sun goes dark and the moon's in the way, Joyspiracy Theory's here to brighten your day. Oh, that might have been my best one. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, everybody. Bye-bye. Oh, I forgot about the voicemail thing. A couple people have been leaving me voicemails. Thank you very much. Go to thejoyspiracytheory.com, and on the right-hand side of the page, there's a little tab that says Leave Voicemail. You can do this on mobile devices. You can do this on your computer. You can do it almost anywhere. Go do that. Leave me a voicemail. Some people leave me songs. They write songs and do that. Some people just leave nice messages. Other people leave weird songs that have hidden messages in it. And if you do that, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to put it on the show. In fact, we might have one at the end of the show. Okay, there we go. Bye-bye.
Hey, Basil, I want to thank you for doing this podcast. Joyspiracy, I hope you know how many lives you brighten with this thing. It really is. No matter what mood I'm in, all I have to do is listen. And you make me smile, man. I really appreciate it. And the world needs more of this. So keep it up, sir. You're doing great. Take care, buddy. Bye.